Stop replying to texts that don't feel right and listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you. Because the messages men send you aren't just random words on a screen, they're planned out strategies designed to mess with your emotions, make you expect less, and keep you waiting around without them putting in any real effort or commitment. I've looked at thousands and thousands of text conversations between men and women from every type of background you can imagine over the last 17 years. And there are 4 specific texting patterns that when a man uses them with you, they don't just show he's not that interested or confused. They show you exactly how he's planning to play with your feelings, make you doubt yourself, and waste months or even years of your life while he keeps looking for something better. These aren't just misunderstandings or different ways of texting, they're carefully planned traps that look like normal everyday texting. And the second you spot them, you need to realize that you're not dealing with someone who's just busy or bad at staying in touch. You're dealing with someone who's already decided that you're not worth his time and attention, you're useful enough to keep interested when it doesn't take much. Stay with me until I show the pattern, because it's so normal in how we date today that almost every woman accepts it. They even make excuses for it. Normal guy behavior. And it's the one thing that ruins your ability to see when a guy actually likes you more than anything else. Before I show you these 4 texting patterns that should make you block him right away, you need to understand something that will completely change how you read every message you get from men from now on. Most women have been told by movies, by magazine articles, by friends who mean well, to believe that being understanding means accepting whatever texting style a guy gives you, instead of expecting the kind of communication you actually deserve. We've been taught to think that the right woman can make a man text better, that if we just stay patient enough and stay interesting enough, he'll eventually make us a priority in his messages. This way of thinking goes so deep into how we see things that we can't tell the difference anymore between a man who's really busy with real stuff in his life and a man who's playing games and keeping fused while he sees if someone more exciting comes along. We've been taught to see our need for consistent texting as asking for too much, instead of understanding that wanting consistency and clarity is what makes real connection. Old wisdom tells us that how someone communicates shows you who really are better than anything else they do. But modern dating has made us think that paying attention to texting patterns makes us crazy, and that accepting inconsistency means we're mature. Here's what nobody tells you about the texting patterns I'm about to show you. They're not accidents or just personality differences. They're tests to see how much being ignored you'll put up with and how willing you are to throw away what you need to make things easier for him. Every man who uses these patterns has used them before, has seen how well they work to train women to expect fewer messages and stay more emotionally available. And he's counting on you to make excuses for what he's doing instead of seeing it for what it really is. What I'm about to share with you isn't just advice about dating. It's a way to protect yourself that will save not only your heart, but your whole future, because the man you give your time and energy to doesn't just affect your love life. He affects your job, your friendships, your family relationships, your money, your mental health, and most importantly, how you see yourself. Pick the wrong guy, and you'll spend years trying to feel okay again while watching your dreams disappear because you're putting all your energy into someone who never planned to give anything back. The first texting pattern that should make you block him immediately, not after one more conversation, not after giving him another shot, but right this second, is when a man keeps sending you good morning or hope you're having a great day texts without any real substance, without following through on anything, or without actually asking you out or trying to build something real. This pattern is the sneakiest kind of manipulation in texting today, because it's designed to make you think he's thinking about you when really he's doing the absolute smallest thing possible to keep you interested while putting in zero real effort. When a man sends these empty greeting messages, he's not showing he cares about about you or likes you. He's just doing the bare minimum to keep you from moving on while he doesn't have to do any actual work of getting to know you or building a connection. He's basically just reminding you he exists just enough that you don't forget about him and start talking to someone else, but not enough that he has to have real conversations, make actual plans, or show real interest in your life. This pattern works so well because it uses women's natural tendency to see any attention as good attention. Here's what's really happening when he sends these messages with nothing behind them. He's already decided that you're not someone he wants to chase for real, but you're convenient enough to keep in his back pocket until someone he likes more shows up. And he wants to start this low effort pattern right away so that when he disappears for days and then comes back with another meaningless, hey, you've learned to see it as normal. He gets your continued responses, your emotional investment, your hope that this might turn into something, and your patience, all while keeping freedom to send the same copy-paste message to 10 other women without giving anything real to anyone. The worst part about this pattern is that it creates a fake sense of consistency that makes you feel like something is growing between you when actually nothing is moving forward at all. You start seeing these empty messages as proof that he cares, that he's thinking about you during his day, that things are building between you, when the truth is he's probably sending the same generic greeting to multiple women while he's watching TV or scrolling through his phone. You end up being grateful for crumbs and convincing yourself that crumbs are actually a real meal. This texting pattern is extra destructive because it takes up your attention and emotional energy without making him show anything about who he really is, what he actually wants, or how interested he really is in you. You can get these meaningless greetings for weeks or even months without ever having a real conversation that would show you whether he's actually a good match for you or seriously interested in knowing who you are. He's keeping you emotionally hooked while stopping any real closeness from developing, which means you're wasting your time in a fake connection that will never turn into anything real. What makes this even more painful is how it affects your standards over time. When you accept these low effort messages as enough, you start to forget what real effort actually looks like. You begin to think that any message at all means he's interested, that any attention is better than no attention, and you lower your expectations so much that you can't even recognize when someone is treating you well anymore. This pattern doesn't just waste your time with one guy, it changes how you see all men and what you're willing to accept from them. The second texting pattern that should make you delete his number for good is when a man takes hours or even days to respond to your messages, but then immediately likes your social media posts or watches your Instagram stories during that same time. This pattern isn't about being busy or having different texting styles. This is about showing you that you're not a priority while also checking to make sure you're still available and still interested in him. When a man does, he's not he's making a clear choice about this behavior shows you something really important about what he wants. He wants to stay visible in your mind without having to actually talk to you in ways that might lead to you expecting something from him or holding him accountable. He's showing you that he has time and attention to scroll through your photos and watch what you post, but not enough time to actually respond to your direct message from 12 hours ago. This isn't a communication difference. This is a clear message about your value to him. You're interesting enough to watch from far away, but not important enough to actually engage with up close. What makes this pattern so messed up mentally is that it creates constant confusion that keeps you in a state of analyzing and overthinking everything. You see proof that he's on his phone, clearly not too busy to be on social media, obviously seeing what you're posting and doing, but somehow he can't reply to your message from half a day. Your brain goes crazy trying to make sense of these mixed signals, and while you're busy trying to understand his behavior, you're not paying attention to what his actions are actually telling you, which is that you don't matter enough for real engagement. Men who use this pattern have figured out that it's really effective at keeping women interested while they explore other options. They've learned that by staying just present enough through social media likes and story, they can stop you giving up on them while never having to commit to actual conversation. They get to watch your life, Check if you're seeing other guys. Measure how interested you still are, all without giving back showing anything about their own intentions. This pattern also does something else that's really strategic. It trains you to be happy and grateful when he finally does text back. After hours or days of silence with only story views and post likes, when he eventually sends a message, you're so relieved that the confusion is over that you respond all excited instead of calling him out for the disrespectful pattern. He's teaching you to accept being ignored as normal and to celebrate basic communication as something special, which completely messes up your standards in a way that benefits him. The really damaging part is how this affects your self-esteem over time. You start questioning yourself, wondering if you're being too sensitive or expecting too much, asking yourself if you're overthinking, being paranoid. You might even start posting things specifically to see if he'll watch or like them, which means now he's controlling your behavior without even talking to you. You're giving him power over how you feel about yourself based on whether you the smallest bit of attention. The third texting pattern that should make every alarm in your life is when a man sends long, deep, emotional text late at night, completely disappears. This isn't about being in a different schedule. This is about someone who will be physical attention, his terms, without any of the responsibilities, with consistent. When a man only texts like this night but vanishes, he's showing you exist in a secret life instead of being. He's building a relationship that only exists in the dark and in private, where he can be vulnerable and close without any risk that this closeness will turn into real commitment or him having to acknowledge you publicly. This pattern lets him get deep emotional connection and likely sexual conversation or attention while making sure you never become part of his real visible daytime world. You're his secret source of emotional validation and physical attention, kept separate from his actual priorities and real relationships. What makes this extra painful is that those late night texts often feel incredibly real and connecting. He opens up, shares his feelings, asks deep questions, creates intense closeness, and you see this vulnerability as proof that something meaningful is happening between you. But real connections don't hide in the darkness. They don't disappear when the sun comes up, and they don't need secrecy to survive. This pattern creates fake intimacy that feels deep in the moment, but never turns into actual relationship progress or anything real. This situation is especially manipulative because it takes advantage of your natural human reaction to emotional openness. When someone shares their feelings and inner thoughts with you, you naturally get attached and invested. He's using late night emotional availability to create a bond that keeps you hooked, while his daytime distance makes sure you can never use that bond to get actual commitment or consistent presence in his life. You're stuck in a cycle where nighttime closeness gives you hope and daytime absence makes you anxious, keeping you constantly off balance and never sure where you stand. The cruelest part of this pattern is that it makes you part of your own mistreatment. You start protecting his late night texting time, planning your evenings around when he might reach out, staying available when you should be living your life and doing your own thing, all while accepting that during actual daytime hours, when real life is happening, you don't exist to him. You've been pushed to the shadows of his life, and you're working hard to be available in those shadows instead of demanding to be seen in the light where real relationships exist. What's even more damaging is how this pattern affects your daily life and mental state. You find yourself staying up later than you should, losing sleep, being tired the next day, all because you're waiting for his messages or responding to them when they come. Your daytime becomes something you just get through so you can get to nighttime when he might text. You're essentially splitting yourself into two people, the daytime you who lives normal life and the nighttime you who exists for him. And this split is exhausting and unsustainable. The fourth and most mentally destructive texting pattern, the one that damages more women's ability to recognize real interest than any other, is when a man responds to your messages with questions that seem interested, but never shares anything real about himself, his life, his plans, or what he wants with you. This pattern sounds like real interest and engagement, and that's exactly why it's so damaging. Women get these question-filled responses and feel like he's curious about them, invested in knowing them, really interested in their thoughts and experiences. But what you're actually getting is a smart tactic that pulls out your emotional investment while he shows nothing and risks nothing. When a man keeps asking you questions without telling you things about himself in return, he's not being a good listener or showing healthy interest. He's keeping complete control of the situation by making sure that all emotional vulnerability and investment flows one way from you to him. This pattern lets him learn everything about you, your habits, your weak spots, your desires, your availability, while you learn absolutely nothing concrete about him, his actual life situation, his real relationship status, or what he genuinely wants with you. This texting pattern is especially sneaky because it reverses the natural way attraction and connection should grow. In healthy early communication, both people slowly share information about themselves, taking turns being vulnerable, gradually building mutual knowledge and investment. But when he only asks questions, he's putting himself in the position of interviewer and you in the position of someone trying to get hired, which completely messes up the power balance. You're auditioning for your worth through your answers, while he judges from a place of complete safety whether you're good enough. What makes this pattern so damaging mentally is that it teaches you to connect his attention with how well you perform instead of with or actual. You start planning your responses, trying to be interesting enough, funny enough, deep enough, instead of thinking about communication style. Actually, you become so focused on answering his question, you don't notice he's never answering any, giving back the vulnerability. Men who use this pattern have learned that asking questions is the easiest way to keep women engaged and responding. It takes no vulnerability, shows no information that could be used to check if what he says is true or judge his character, and creates no responsibility because he's never stated what he wants or made any promises. He can ask about your day, your interests, your thoughts on different topics forever without ever moving toward actual dates, real plans, or clear relationship direction. The most heartbreaking thing about this manipulation is that it uses your natural desire to be known and understood against you. Humans want to be truly seen, and when someone asks questions about us, we think that means they care and they're interested. You feel special because he's asking about your childhood, your dreams, your opinions, your experiences, but he's actually just collecting information to decide whether you're worth real effort, while making sure that if he decides you're not, he hasn't put in anything real that would make him feel bad about disappearing. This pattern also works to stop you from asking the questions that would reveal uncomfortable truths. When you're busy answering his questions, you're not asking why you've been texting for weeks without meeting in person, why he never shares details about his schedule or his life, why every time you try to suggest actual plans, he changes the subject with another question. He's keeping you in reaction mode, responding to what he asks, instead of action mode, where you might demand the same energy back or ask for clarity about what this actually is. What makes this even worse is how it affects your sense of self over time. You become so focused on being the right answer to his questions that you lose touch with what you actually want and need. You stop asking yourself if this communication pattern feels good to you, if you're getting what you need, if this is actually going anywhere, because you're too busy trying to be interesting enough to keep his attention. You forget that your job isn't to pass his test. Your job is to decide if he passes yours. Now that you know these 4 texting patterns and what they really mean, you might be feeling angry, recognized, or maybe relieved that someone finally put words to things you couldn't quite name. You might be looking back at past situations or current message threads with completely new eyes, and that's exactly the shift in awareness that should be happening. This information isn't meant to make you suspicious of every man who texts you or negative about in general. It's designed to give you the ability to quickly people who aren't capable. Here's what I need you to really understand. There are men out there who will never send these, not testing how much. There are men who send real messages with actual substance because they genuinely want to connect, who respond normal hours because you're a priority to them, who share information about themselves because they want you to know them, who ask questions and answer them because they understand that real closeness requires both people. These men exist, but you'll never notice them if you're accepting communication patterns that go against your gut feeling about what's right. You'll never attract them if you're putting up with treatment that goes against your natural need for consistency and respect. You'll never build something real with them if you're exhausting yourself trying to decode hidden meanings in messages from someone who has no intention of being clear or straightforward with you. Start trusting your first reactions to texting patterns instead of talking yourself out of them with excuses. If someone's texting behavior feels off in the first few days of talking, it absolutely is. If you find yourself making excuses for why someone takes days to respond or only texts late at night, pay attention to that uncomfortable feeling inside you. If you notice yourself trying harder to be interesting or changing how you text to match someone else's minimal effort, that's critical information about what's really going on. Here's the final truth I want to leave you with. You're not responsible for teaching people how to text you with respect. You're not responsible for accepting poor treatment because someone might get better eventually. And you're not responsible for staying in texting patterns that make you feel anxious,